Hooty hoo, all my stock market gamblers. Welcome today. I'm Tall Mike. So glad you're here. What do we got going on? Well, we had a couple of down days in the market. Now, you all know exactly what to do, right? You buy the dip. You buy the dip. That's how we're programmed, right? To buy the dip. Couple down days, buy the dip. And we might get a little bounce here into the end of the year. I'm not saying we're not. I'm saying eventually the buy the dip mentality is not going to work. Now, what am I looking at? Well, I'm looking at the IWM. What's IWM? It's the small cap companies. It's not the big magnificent seven. It's not the Google. It's not the Apple, the Microsoft, the Nvidias. It's the small cap companies. And that market is headed lower. I think it's already hit a top here. Well, maybe we get to a new high, but I don't think so. I think that market's going to lead us to the downside. Now, you got the NASDAQ, it made a high, come down a couple days, buy the dip. Maybe we get a new high. Someone commented that Apple's still making new highs, so just stay with it. But I commented back that Nvidia is not making new highs. And then if Nvidia doesn't start to make new highs soon, the whole market is going to come down. That includes the NASDAQ, the S&P, and I think it's even part of the Dow now. Nvidia, I think, was added to the Dow, but it's in the NASDAQ, it's in the S&P, and I think it was added to the Dow. So if Nvidia does not continue to lead the market higher, this market will come in. Right now, the VIX, I look at the VIX. The VIX is a volatility index. Now, the number on it's low. It's been, 13, 14. It's really a low number. That's not what I'm concerned with here. I'm concerned with how the Bollinger Bands. The Bollinger Bands, they were wide, and now they're coming together. Smaller, smaller, tighter, tighter. What this tells me is something big is about to happen. Now, it doesn't mean that it's going to be big as in a market crash. It could be big as in a crack-up boom. That's a possibility. I'm just not betting on the crack-up boom side of things. So we'll see how this plays out going into the end of the year. We usually get that Santa rally, strong time of year. Maybe this trend continues higher into January, but I don't think we're going to get past January. I'm not even sure we're going to get past December before the market starts to come down. All right, let's get over to the real estate side of things today. I want to talk a little bit about that because there's some very interesting articles come out. Okay, let me give you the headline to the first article. This is this Yahoo Finance, right? Housing market should pick up next year. Next year starts in January, right? Housing market should pick up. Now let's think about why it should pick up. Well, they point out, high mortgage rates, right? Okay, was that going to make it pick up? I don't think so. High prices, that going to make it pick up? No, I don't think so. Most unaffordable ever, is that going to make it pick up? I don't think so. That's just my take. Now, the article seems to think that for no apparent reason that all of a sudden the housing market is just going to start running upward again. Now, the other article was very fascinating to me. It said that consumer confidence in the housing market rose. Consumer confidence rose in the housing market. You got more confidence in the housing market? Well, here's what it went on to say. Last month, 80% of people said it's a bad time to buy a home. This month, only 78% of people say it's a bad time to buy a home. Now, that means 22% of people think it's a good time. Well, I'm still tending to think that it's a bad time to buy it for all those reasons we mentioned earlier, right? The high mortgage rates, high prices, unaffordability. That, to me, is a bad time to buy a house, right? But consumer confidence rose in the last month. Very interesting, right? We're coming into the slow time of year where the housing market is pretty much frozen. Nothing's moving in my area. A couple come on, they just sit there. January is really where it starts to go again. The inventory will come on. We'll see if the inventory comes off with new buyers. But what they're trying to do, I want to point this out, they're trying to trick you into buying up here at the high by making it sound like it's really a good idea, because you don't want to be the fool left holding the bag, right? So they want to convince you that the housing market's going to pick up and you better hurry up and get in because it's going to take off again. You got to hurry up and get in because consumer confidence is really on the rise here. Very fascinating. But you see, I don't see it that way. Now, I know a lot of you are saying, but Mike, I'm locked in at 2.8%. I'm not going anywhere. And 2.8% is great. And if you did sell, right? If you did sell, you'd have to buy again, right? 2.8, you'd have to pay up here at 7%. So your mortgage rate would double. Well, you want to buy a bigger house, right? You don't want to buy a smaller one. So your property taxes would probably also double. So you double your rate, double your property tax. It doesn't make sense for you. And 2.8% is great as long as you can keep your job, as long as you can afford it. But a lot of people are becoming what's called a more motivated seller. It's really what's called a distressed seller. They've either lost their job, they've gone through a divorce, they've got married, they got relocated, somebody died and they have to sell the house. A lot of different reasons, but they are now a motivated seller, which is soon going to become a distressed seller. They're locked in at 2.8%, but they're willing to let it go because they're now a motivated distressed seller, right? Okay, now it's my opinion only, that there's going to be a correction coming. Now, a lot of people would argue that there's not going to be a correction coming. There's a couple reasons. They have valid points, right? They have valid points. The Donald, he's coming into office, right? What's he going to do? He's got tariffs. What are tariffs going to do? It's going to make the cost to build a home more expensive, right? Because some of the parts come from overseas and those parts will be going up, right? So some of that's going to be inflationary and going to be more expensive to build, right? And what's the other thing that Donald's going to do? Well, he's going to deport a lot of the illegal people here, right? He's going to deport them. Or supposedly millions and millions of people are going to get deported. Now, what's that going to do? Well, a lot of those people work in the construction field. Why? Because it's easy to get a job there. If you're a physical day laborer, you can get a job in construction. But if you're deported, you can't work, and all of a sudden there's no one to build the homes. So those would be two arguments as to why home prices will not drop, and those would be good arguments. Now, the other argument could be, well, if you deport millions and millions of people, they're not going to need houses, so maybe the home prices come down. You see, there's two sides to each story, but basically the building costs could be going higher, right? So maybe in nominal terms, maybe houses stay up here or even go a little higher. I suppose that's a possibility, right? In real terms, though, I don't see it that way. In real terms, your house is already getting beat over the head with a club, right? I mean, they've been flat, and we've had inflation out there running 8, 9, 10%. So your house purchasing power is going down. Now, some people, it's weird. I get comments, I get emails from people. Some people actually took my advice. In the last year or two, they sold their property and they put the money into gold. They had a rental property and go, well, we're done with this. It's not fun anymore. And they bought gold. And their rental property, well, it's gone down a little bit, not much, but that's just called flat. But their gold gone up about 40%. They're very happy with their move, right? You see, in terms of real money, houses are coming down. Now, in terms of real money, houses are going to get beat over the head with the stupid stick. Now, right now, I keep talking about it's going to take about 500 ounces of silver when this is all done. About 500 ounces of silver to buy the average price house. A lot of people think that's ludicrous, right? Because right now, what does it take? I don't know. Let's just use rough numbers. Let's say silver's at, well, it's at 30, but let's say 40 so I can do the arithmetic, right? House at 400,000. Well, it takes 10,000 ounces, so it's going to take 500 ounces. Now, why do I say this? It's been that low before. Well, actually, it's been about 6 to 700 ounces, but this time I think we'll overshoot all the way down to 500 ounces. Now, maybe it's only going to take you 1,000 ounces of silver to buy the average price house. That's a possibility, right? That's a possibility. So you would turn 30,000 into 400,000, right? But the 400,000 is going to be coming down. Silver is going to be going up. Now, it's not going to do that until the debt bubble pops. Now, people tell me it's impossible for this debt bubble to pop. Even if we get to, we're at 37 trillion. Even if we get to 50 trillion, it's impossible to pop it. Even if we get to 100 trillion, impossible to pop it. Even because we have 200 trillion in unfunded liabilities, it's impossible for the debt bubble to pop because we have this thing called MMT now, modern monetary theory, right? We can print as much money as we want and it doesn't matter. It has no effect, right? So as long as they continue to print money at a clip of an extra $4 or $5 trillion a year, yes, maybe in nominal terms, they can keep the housing market propped up in nominal terms. In real terms, you're going to get that silver ratio, 500 ounces to the average price home. That's just my take. You do whatever you want. What if I'm right? What if I'm wrong? That's how I look at it. You buy 500 ounces, 30 an ounce, okay, you got $15,000 of of silver. What if it does buy you the average price home, which is now $400,000? Would you trade that for that? I would say, yeah, you'd do that all day long, right? So what if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong? You got stuck with $15,000 worth of silver, and I got news for that silver is not going to stay at a price tag of $15,000. Going to go much higher. Cheapest asset on the planet. I still say that. Okay, so what else is going on in the real estate business? Well, this is one thing I didn't really completely expect. I got this a little bit wrong. I knew the people, the mainstream media, they had it way wrong, but I did get this a little bit wrong. Okay, commissions after the ruling, August 17th, they ruled that the buyers you cannot advertise for a buyer broker to bring you a buyer anymore because you cannot offer them a commission, right? So people thought that commissions would start to come down. Here's what's funny. They're going up. And I can tell you why, because I'm a real estate broker. Here's what's happened. I used to charge a buyer 2.5% to go buy him a home, right? And he wasn't paying it. The seller was paying it. Isn't that fascinating? So the buyer, he wasn't complaining at all. Okay, I guess the lawsuit came from the sellers. They felt they got hosed, paying the whole 5 or 6% commission, right? So now they cannot advertise for the buyer, right? So buyer's agents, they've gone away, right? Well, here, I'm a buyer agent, right? Okay, here's what I do now. I used to charge them 2.5%. Now I charge them 4%. Commissions are going higher. 4% there, right? If I got a seller, I charge him 4%. I'm now at 8%, right? 8%. I used to be at 5%, but since this ruling, it's gone up 3%. Isn't that weird? That's weird. People say, but Mike, you're an idiot. You can't do that. I can do anything I want. It's my rules, my company. I'm the broker, right? But here's why I charge the buyer 4% now, right? Okay, before it was 2.5%, right? But before I was getting paid, I was sure I was going to get paid. So now I go in with a buyer agreement and say it's 4%. Don't worry, Mr. Buyer. We're going to try to get the seller to pay, but you'll cover whatever percent they don't cover, right? Now the seller, they're still normally willing to cover 2.5% to 3%, but I get the buyer to kick in an extra 1%, right? I get 3% from the seller and 1% from the buyer. So there's my 4%, right? So when I list the house, I tell the seller now, look, Mr. Seller, we used to charge you 6%, but now you get a bargain. You only have to pay 4%. The seller thinks that's great. They sign on the dotted line. Well, guess what? No offers come in because we're not offering any commission to the buyers. But when we finally do get an offer, guess what they're asking? They're asking for the seller to pay 4%. 4%. The seller was paying 5% before total. Now he's up to 8%. He's got to pay me 4. He's got to pay 4. But Mike, I don't want to pay him 4%. You said I'd just pay you. And you can do that. You can turn this offer down. It's the only offer we have, though. I don't know. You might not want to turn it down because it could be another 6 months to a year before we get another one. You sure you don't want to give them the 4%? All of a sudden, they want to give them the 4% because they have to go because they're getting divorced. They want out at any cost. So it's really funny, right? This ruling that was supposed to protect the consumer has hurt the consumer so bad. And I hope like the Donald's administration can see this and they get this overturned. Not for my sake. I'm loving this. I love 8%. Don't get me wrong. People think this is a bad time to be a broker. I tell everybody, get your license, man. It's like the wild, wild west again. This is wild stuff going on out there, right? Okay, I mean, it is. But, yeah, everybody's agreeing to it. Everybody's signing on. 100% legal. You got to let them know what's going on. But commissions didn't go down. Everybody thought they'd go down. They've gone up, and not by a little bit. They've gone up by quite a bit. Man, if you're a real estate agent, I suggest 4% aside right now until they fix the problem, right? Lawyers, they got rich. They got a third of the $400 million settlement. There's going to get a lot of lawsuits because a lot of the buyers, they don't want to pay this, so they represent themselves, which creates a lot of lawsuits. So the lawyers are loving this. I hope the administration can see this. I mean, they've reverted us back to a third world country. They made the MLS almost obsolete, right? And everybody thinks that's a good thing. You go to a third world country, they don't have an MLS. It takes 2 to 5 years to sell a property there because there's nothing efficient anymore. The MLS was the most efficient system in the world, and that ruling just took it away. Made us agents a little more valuable, went from 5% to 8%, and we like getting paid more. I know I'm going to get the haters on this one. Look, I get it. I hate real estate people too. I have to work with them. They're a bunch of idiots. All of them. I'm telling you, every one of them. Not true, not true. Some of them are the nicest people you'll ever meet. But I get the general public's opinion of us that we're just a bunch of scoundrels out there trying to fleece you for all it's worth. And we're just business people. Yeah, we like to make money. We do our job. And if we do it it well, we get paid very, very handsomely. Had a great year this year. Well, I didn't even work. I must have worked the whole 20 hours this year doing the deals. But the deals kept calling me on the phone. There's still people calling me. I know that the floodgates are going to open on the inventory. That's going to lower the prices even in nominal terms. I'm afraid you have your own opinions. If you think it's a great time to buy, get out there and buy, because us real estate agents, we like the business. If you like this stuff, give me the thumbs up. Why not punch that subscribe button? Get out there, everybody. Have a great day. Don't forget to leave me that hate comment. Bye-bye now.